We have some exciting breaking news to bring to you guys out there. We're joined on the phone by George St. Pierre. George, I can't believe that you're going to be announcing this on our show. We're so honored. We're big fans. I mean, go ahead.
Yes, George St. Pierre. I am coming back to the UFC for UFC 200 against Robbie Lawler for the welterweight title. I saw him and he punched the head, but he and Carlos Condit, I saw them in the ring for 5 rounds. They did nothing. It was less impressive than me wrestling and laying on top of someone for 5 rounds. That's it. I was not impressed by your performance.
Oh, yeah. April Fools, guys. All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Bros, you knows. I'm your host, Viet. And I am joined by two-stripe white belt from Gracie Barra, Texas, Mr. Matt Alexander. Matt, what's up, bro?
Doing good, man. I love it. I love the Great Baja Jiu-Jitsu. Yes, I am liking the Jiu-Jitsu.
Hey, so did you see Cat Williams get put into choke?
Got totally put into, well, it was really more of a seatbelt. The kid really needs some help putting in that, sinking in the rear naked choke. But the takedown was good because apparently the kid was a wrestler. It's like, man, don't get mad at Cat Williams. He was defending himself against a bigger boy, which is true because I thought that was funny at the time. But then I was like, damn, the kid actually is like much bigger than him.
Well, yeah, but like also like Cat Williams is a very small man. Like he's not a very big person. So
obviously everyone's gonna be bigger than him.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. Gracie did a breakdown of his fight.
Yes, I know. I saw that. It was so good. And they were like, "Oh, Cat Williams, we'll sponsor you. Come to Torrance, California. We'll sponsor you." You're like, dude, he's fucking rich. He can pay for his own classes. Damn.
Yeah.
I want the free Gracie classes. Shit.
So we have an excellent episode for you guys today. We'll just do a little roundtable discussion, talk about some of the some headlines in the world of MMA. We'll go through some of these epic cards that are coming up, including the April 10th fight in capital of, come on, Matt, help me out. Capital of Croatia.
Zagreb.
And we have UFC Zagreb coming up. It should be an exciting one. You have two heavyweights. One guy that seems to be on the up and up, just killing everybody. And then the other guy who was one-time heavyweight champion of the world after knocking out Cain Velasquez is now sort of a shell of his former self in JDS. And of course, he's going against Big Ben Rothwell. It was really funny. They talked with JDS. I think it was on the Area Hawani show, and he was saying, they were asking him like, "How's Ben Rothwell?" And he's like, you never know what to expect because he kind of comes off a little weird, and he's a giant. But apparently Ben Rothwell's like the coolest guy, like even like when they're doing promos and stuff, which is kind of cool. You kind of figure he seems like that. It's like, I'll kill you in the cage, but I'm just really a big teddy bear. my only skills in life is being a giant and being really good at punching people. Also, his jiu-jitsu is like really good. That should be a fun fight. This is just one of many international cards that the UFC has been putting on lately. Just a few weeks ago, we had UFC Brisbane, Australia, and we're so excited. We're about to have Damien Beatdown Brown on the show. He is a lightweight fighter with a professional record of 15-9, and he was on that UFC Brisbane card, his hometown of Brisbane. We're so excited to get a chance to chat with him. Hello, Damien.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm doing all right. This is Viet with Bros. How's it going down there in the land of Oz?
Oh, it's good, man. Lovely weather.
Sounds amazing. Hey, I'd like to thank you again for taking the time out of your schedule and doing this with us. We really appreciate it.
No dramas, man.
All right. Now, you have been training in mixed martial arts since 2008. You first fought professionally in 2010 when you submitted Tim Radley. What inspired you to pursue a career in mixed martial arts?
I started kickboxing for a bit of fun. I did martial arts my whole childhood. I got a black belt in Zimmer and then yeah, I went back to it for a bit of fitness, kickboxing, and then started doing some jiu-jitsu. And I had an amateur fight against someone else actually, and he pulled guard and took me to the ground, and it was a new world for me. And that I lost submission, and that propelled me into an addiction, I guess, an addiction to jiu-jitsu, and MMA was just a lead on to it.
You recently fought in UFC Fight Night 85 in your hometown of Brisbane. You dropped a decision in a tough fight with Alan Patrick. Now, it should be noted you were fighting on short notice, and you had to cut a ridiculous 29 pounds in 7 days. Now, a week out of a fight, what are you typically cutting down from?
Normally a week out from a fight, I'd probably have about between 12 and 15 pounds, and like probably 5 or 6 days out. I'd never cut more than 12 pounds on a good weight cut. So yeah, 29 pounds is. I don't even think people should be able to cut 29 pounds. I don't really know how I did it. I just went off my experiences and talked to a couple of dietitians and got their advice, and I made it with definitely with the help of two of my teammates who were there for me for a good 9 to 10 hours cutting water. It was crazy, man, crazy.
For sure. Now, I know as a fighter, you guys generally stay in shape year-round anyways, but there's obviously a difference between having a full camp and being able to work your weight down, and then what you had to do in this fight, cutting 29 pounds in 7 days. If you could give us a percentage out of 100, where were you heading into this fight?
Physically, I was probably around, I was probably around, like, I don't know, 85, 90%. Like, I was pretty fit. We train all the time, but I'm a shift worker, so after my fights, I don't change my shifts around. I just go to work. I probably train 3 nights a week, train in the mornings, train through the day on my days off. But, when I have fights coming up, I change my shifts around so I can get 5 nights a week in and stuff like that. So I would have been like 85% in terms of, physically. Mentally, I was 100%, like if I was weak mentally going into that fight, he would have submitted me, but there's no way he was going to submit me. I hung in there. I think I proved that I can grapple with the best on the ground, and hopefully the next one stands up and trades, so I can prove that too.
Yeah, it didn't look like Alan wanted to stand and trade with you. He really wanted to utilize his wrestling. At one point, you had him in a guillotine, and at another point during the fight, you rocked him really hard with a hook. I think the fans out there believe that with a full camp, that fight would have looked a lot differently.
Yeah, man. Hopefully I can get a couple of wins, and maybe the UFC will give me that fight again with some notice, and I can prove to the world that, I believe that I would have finished that fight in the first round. Hopefully I can prove that to the world. So, but, I've never done a rematch. I've had 24 pro fights. I've never done a rematch yet. And, a loss is a loss. I take it on the chin and learn from it. But, it's UFC, and fought on 7 days' notice with a massive weight cut. It'd be nice to have a full camp and show them that, it's not just an excuse, but, it took its toll.
The card you are on at UFC Brisbane is just the latest of many examples of great events that the UFC has been putting on in Australia. A very notable example is UFC 193 featuring Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm in Melbourne, which had an attendance of 56,000 plus, setting a new UFC record. I know in the United States, the UFC and MMA in general has really grown in popularity, and it seems like the same thing is happening in Australia. What is it like witnessing the growth of the sport in your country, and as a fighter, being part of that rise?
It's pretty awesome. I mean, when I first went to the gym that I'm at Integrated MMA in Brisbane, it's it was widely regarded as the best gym in the country anyway, and then the UFC came to Australia. I mean, the UFC has definitely helped gym numbers grow. It's definitely helped the sport grow. That's obvious. But more on a local thing. I'm sure every gym in Australia is the same. But
all right,
from the exposure that the UFC has given the world to MMA, it's been. Sorry, you there?
Yes, can you hear me, Damien?
Yeah, sorry, go again.
All right. Well, I wanted to ask you who your favorite fighter was.
Probably Robbie Lawler. I've been asked that a few times, man. I used to like GSP and the way he could execute a game plan and never deviate off it, even though people would.
Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Please bear with us. All right, it looks like we're connecting back with Damien. Damien, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened.
That's my line here, man. When I drive to work, it drops out in one spot every time, so I just forgot about it.
No worries. I was asking you about your favorite fighter. You said it's Lawler now. It used to be George St. Pierre. So I have to ask you, if George St. Pierre comes out of retirement like those rumors are saying he will, can he give Lawler a run for that belt?
Oh, definitely, he'd give him a run for it, but I don't think he should get an automatic title shot. He was the best in the world, arguably, greatest of all time, pound for pound. I mean, everyone talked about it, but he's been out for a long time, I think his last fight was a little rough, and obviously he needed a break, but, I don't think he should just walk straight back into it. I think they should definitely probably give him someone like a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, even though he's got a fight coming up or something like that. If he happens to beat Rory McDonald, maybe we'd come back against him and then have Robbie Lawler. I don't know. See what happens. UFC will do whatever's best for them.
All right, Damien. Now, for those fans out there that may not be as familiar with a Damien Beatdown Brown, what can they expect when they tune in to watch you fight?
I always say it, I fight for me, I fight for the fans. It's I only have one style of fighting, and that's to finish the fight. So it doesn't matter whether it's by submission or knockout. My intentions are always the same, and that's to finish the fight. So unless someone lays on me and hugs me like Patrick did, it's I think I proved, like, when I swept him in the first round, my intentions as soon as I got on top were to finish the fight. Like, I started throwing bombs and elbows, and that's what they can expect. As long as I'm on top, there's going to be action. As long as it's standing, there's going to be action. The only way I'm going to lose a fight is by getting caught, by making a mistake, or by someone laying on me and outpointing me. So they tune in to watch me fight, expect fireworks.
Now, I know you just fought, but do you have anything lined up presently?
No, nothing lined up. I'd like to fight in Canada on the 18th of June. Otherwise, it'd be pretty awesome to be a part of UFC Fight Night 90, which is the 7th of July in Vegas. Hopefully I can get on one of those two cards. I'll fight anyone in the lightweight division. I'm signed to the best promotion in the world. You don't get to pick fights. It's, I don't want to just fight anyone. I want to fight the best. So hopefully they just match me up so I can start winning and keep climbing. I don't want to be just poking around the bottom for ages. So, maybe a fight against someone like Chad Laprise or someone like that, someone who wants to stand and trade, you know what I mean? Someone who wants to show the fans what they pay to come and see.
Well, Damien, I'd like to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this with us. It was a lot of fun. Good luck in your fights going forward, and I wish you all the best, my friend.
No worries, man. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. One more thing, man. Follow me, guys, at Beatdown155, Instagram and Twitter. Follow me.
All right, you guys heard the man. Follow him at Beatdown155. He's a great follow, and he's an exciting fighter. Damien, thanks again. Have a good one.
Thanks, man.
We want to thank you, Damien, again for joining us on the show, enduring technical difficulties and all. He was a great sport. And I'll be putting his contact information, his Twitter, and his IG in the description below, so be sure to check that out and show him some love, guys. So Matt, let's get right to it. One of the biggest MMA headlines of this past week, Jon Jones. What is up with Jon Jones?
I don't know, man. Jon Jones gives sociopaths a bad name. Can I say that out loud? Did I say that out loud? Oh, damn. Now he's gonna come kick my ass. But it's okay, because I'm not a pregnant woman, so he probably won't hit me. Too soon.
Wow.
I don't know, man. It's crazy. There's so much going on. found that out last night that he was having like another hearing, had gotten arrested, but apparently everything's cool, so he's still gonna have the fight for 197. Demetrious Johnson was like, "Oh, I'm totally ready to take over the main event if you need me to," and I was like, "Yeah, Demetrious Johnson, Jon Jones." Oh, never mind.
Oh, I see. Yeah, this poor guy. You know, Mighty Mouse. I think someone said, on his worst day, he wakes up and he's one of the best 7 on the planet at what he does. Right? And that guy could never, like, the UFC refuses to let him headline a card. He's probably one of our most dominant champions. So it's
even on PlayStation, UFC 2, he's wrecking people. He submitted Rampage because Rampage doesn't know the controls, and you're like, damn. Even in the video game, Rampage doesn't know how to work on the ground.
Oh wow.
Wait, you can play him against Rampage?
No, they were playing as like different characters, whatever, in like the same weight class.
Oh.
They were like,
Yeah, they do stretch the weight classes a bit though, because I saw you could do a Mighty Mouse versus Conor McGregor.
yeah.
So they let you go, like, I guess up to 2 weight classes down. Because, I mean, you can play as Conor in welterweight in the game as well. So, yeah, you can play as Joe Rogan in the game.
Oh my gosh, that would be so fun.
Yeah.
Like,
You need a Konami code. You put in the Konami code, and you unlock Joe Rogan. And it's so funny. I was talking with David, and they had a missed opportunity, but they should have gone really meta with it. And when Joe Rogan is calling his own fight, he should be like, "Oh, I'm in a really tight spot here. that kick really hurt me. Oh, I got rocked." You know, like they should have really went with it. But I guess he says that the reason why he put himself in the game, they made a deal with him, and he didn't have to do as much studio recording. Like, he didn't have to do as much commentary for the game if he allowed himself to be in the game. So he was like, yeah. Which may explain why he screams at everything. And I know Joe Rogan is usually, like, he's a pretty excitable person in general. But in the game, it's ridiculous. Like, you can just start out the game and, like, jab a guy. And he's like, whoa! Jab! And, of course, you have, like, Mike Goldberg. Worthless Goldberg on the side, like, just even in the game, all he can do is parrot whatever Joe Rogan says. Yep, that was a punch, Joe. Yeah, it was a. This is your job. Oh, jeez. So, yeah, UFC 197. It looks like Jon Jones has been released. He was actually under arrest. He was in prison, and actually, he was in like. He was separated.
oh
Like,
yeah, from the
they had the
population.
you know, they said like it was for his protection, but you kind of think if it's a little bit like Rorschach from Watchmen, where he tells the other prisoners like, "I'm not locked in here with you. You guys are locked in here with me." I wonder if there's a little bit of that going on. Jon Jones seems to have a little bit of a crazy streak. I got to watch just like the highlight of like the body cam or whatever. It you know, he just it did seem like the officer was antagonizing him a little bit. And I mean, obviously there's no video of him actually drag racing or any of that, so who knows how much of that is actually true. It does come off like maybe he has a bit of a target on his back, but you know, the crazy thing is, I heard this on SureDoc, but the guys down there at Jackson Winklejohn, their gym down there in Albuquerque, they actually do a lot of charity events with the law enforcement. Like, they have a great relationship with the police. So, you know, who knows what's going on there. I mean, I don't think it's some conspiracy like the police are out to get Jon Jones. I just think it's a guy that just kind of continually puts himself in bad situations. And it's like, dude, you just got arrested like a month ago. All you had to do was not get arrested. Like, why drive? Like, there's so many things. There's so many, yeah. there's so many things that you can get in trouble for driving. You know, like how many traffic violations does a normal person break just like on a routine drive to work? You know, like not even thinking. And for the most part, none of us will ever get caught. But we're also not a really famous MMA star driving around like a really fancy sports car and revving our engine for the fans and doing whatnot. It just seemed like he could have. I mean, yeah, I understand he was probably a little upset. I mean, he knew, you know, he was just arrested like a month back or something like that. So he was probably, I don't know, a little scared or something like that, like he was going to get in real trouble, and that probably manifested in anger. But he should have just, you know, yes, officer, like whatever, like cooperate and then get on the phone with your lawyer and figure it out, instead of like blowing off the officer, yelling at him, like trying to call the lawyer like while he was talking to him. Like, I don't know, he just didn't handle it well. It sounds like Dana White was basically like, yeah, he's kind of an idiot, but you know, the fight's still on. So yes, Jon Jones, Cormier, thoughts?
Man, I don't know. I see it going a lot the same. I think I kind of like agree with your assessment, was that basically for Cormier to win, he's going to have the fight of his life, and Jones is going to have to be off in order for Cormier to win. It is interesting to see Jones now, because he brought up like the fact that in all of his previous fights, he always left himself an out or an excuse to, like, if he lost, he could say, oh, well, I had a short training cramp, or I wasn't doing this, or I wasn't feeling well, or whatever external factor. And he realized, like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to go into this fight, like, with nothing, like, no excuses at all. Which, you know, could be really scary to see, think, like, wow, the guy that we saw previously who's, like, kicking that much ass, like, could be, you know, he could, like, actually step up his game from there. Like, separate himself from the pack even further. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch either way.
Yeah, but see, all right, so, like, we were talking about this. There's that, like, he may evolve, but there's also, like, maybe there's that little bit of, that doubt or fear, and you were bringing up George St. Pierre used to say, like, I don't know why people say I'm not scared or act like they're not afraid. Like, he's like, you know, we're doing something that's very dangerous. Of course, there's always a little bit of fear involved. But he felt like that helped him. That made him sharper. Like that helped him prepare and train.
Yeah, people weren't afraid. They're either, he's like, they're stupid or they're crazy. And it's like, honestly, if somebody's like stupid, just like not intelligent, they probably won't be that good of a fighter. Like, at that level, it can't just be physical talent alone. So it's like, you could also have somebody that's like a savant and is just like good at this really one thing. But I think a lot of people will like psych themselves out. Because honestly, I think most fighters are pretty crazy. And a lot of people are crazy in general, but I think the ability to like get in there in the cage and they tell themselves whatever they have to. Like, some guys really do go in there. It's not delusional, really, because if you're a really good fighter and you think, man, I can beat anybody, if you're, you know, one of the best people in the world, I mean, that's not actually a far stretch of the imagination. Like, it'd be pretty damn delusional for me to say something like, I could fight anybody in the world and crush them. You're like, okay, clearly that's not true. I'm going to get killed by pretty much anyone. I get killed in jiu-jitsu all the time by 90-pound girls.
Hey, you said that you submitted one once, though.
I did. I was getting whooped by a 90-pound girl, and then she kept saying, don't hold back on me because I'm a girl. And I was like, I'm not. I'm just terrible. Then a couple days ago, just a few months later, I submitted her, and I was like, yes.
Please tell me, rear naked choke.
Kimura. Oh, lame. Basically, I just used my strength to overpower her, and I was like, ha ha ha, oh, I'm so technical.
I forgot to tell the fans out there, but Matt Alexander, his nickname, his nickname, his guard has a nickname. It's called the Wood Chipper.
Limbs go in to get broken.
Oh, please tell me, when you were rolling with this 90-pound girl, did you say, knock knock, who's there, Kimura?
Yes, but she's Brazilian, so she was like, what? And I was like, oh, that's why you're so good at jiu-jitsu. You're beating.
And then she swept you.
Oh, that happens. That happens at least a few times a day.
Yeah, way more than than in the UFC.
Oh, actually, speaking of sweeps in the UFC, our boy Rafael Natal from Belo Horizonte, he's a black belt under my professor, Dracolino. So, and actually it's really weird because I saw some of his fight tapes and I found out that my professor actually corners him in all of his fights. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. He's actually in the background of the video where he and Uriah Hall are shoving each other. I was like, hey, I know that guy. That's but he gave he was completing his training camp. He's fighting Robert Whittaker at 197 or UFC 197, but at middleweight. And he gave a seminar on half guard stuff, and it was all really cool because it's stuff that works for gi or no gi. And he was like, oh yeah, I do this all the time. He's like, remember, in half guard, hide your head against their stomach because in MMA, they can't strike the back of your head. It's illegal. So he's like, one time I was doing this, and he started talking in Portuguese. He was trying to, like, say it right. He was like, I almost got knocked out. You got, like, rocked and hit the ground. And then he was just like, yeah, then I just kind of, like, wrapped into half guard and hid my head against this guy's stomach, and I kind of recovered for the next minute, and then won by decision. So he's like, just hug them. So, learn how to sweep people from half guard, and also how not to get elbowed into submission, or into TKO, as it were.
All right, I think we're gonna move on from UFC 197. Later on, we're gonna break down that main event, Jon Jones Cormier. I think I mentioned it on the show before. I think it's going to be a combination of Cormier having the fight of his life and Jon Jones being a bit off of his game for Cormier to take this one. Jon Jones is such a dangerous fighter. There's just so many different ways he can beat you. There's some unique aspects there. I think for us, Sahabi already did like a sort of a breakdown, and he's amazing. I would definitely recommend you guys check him out if you haven't already. But he pointed out some really interesting things. That, generally being a taller fighter, you prefer fighting in the clinch. You have the leverage. You can hold their neck down. You can really work your strikes. Cormier was actually winning the exchanges in the clinch against Jon Jones. He actually preferred them. He was able to fire off some uppercuts and stuff like that in close, which is it's a little strange. Generally Jon Jones being a very tall fighter, rangy fighter, you would think he would have the advantage there. But that was actually one of Cormier's few advantages. You would think that Cormier was going to be able to take him down. He really struggled to take Jon Jones down. Jon Jones' takedown defense is excellent. He actually took Cormier down at one point just to show he could. His wrestling's no joke. Jon Jones has very few weaknesses. And we know Cormier is a world-class wrestler, but
it's different in the context of MMA too. Like, if there was a straight wrestling match, I think what's his name could take him down a lot more ease. But throwing in the cage and striking and submissions, that's a lot more to worry about. So that
for sure
shows that Jones is like really developed in all those areas and is comfortable.
Yeah, but and Jones, like, he started mixed martial arts like pretty young too. I think you have the new breed of fighters that, Jones did do some wrestling, and that's, I guess, if he had a base, that's his base, is his wrestling. So his wrestling's no joke. But you have these young guys that kind of go from the ground up as mixed martial artists, as opposed to a karate guy, and then he learned jiu-jitsu, or a jiu-jitsu guy, and then he started learning some striking, or a wrestler that started learning some boxing and some other stuff. Rory McDonald's a great example. Like, from the ground up, that guy started training as a mixed martial artist. From day one, it was, what is the best way to strike, the best way to wrestle, the best way to do jiu-jitsu in the context of mixed martial arts. Like you said, like jiu-jitsu, that becomes a different game. A lot of the stuff that you do that's effective in sport jiu-jitsu, that's not going to work in mixed martial arts. It's a different game when someone can throw elbows at you when you're trying to transition. It's a different game when someone's punching you in the face while you're trying to submit them. You know, so yeah, it'll be tough. But Cormier's wrestling, that is his bread and butter. I think if he does just spend the entire fight trying to take Jones down, though, he'll gas himself. That's a really tiring game.
Especially 5 rounds, and he's going to get hit a lot.
Yeah. And we should note, we were talking about how Mighty Mouse always gets snubbed, like no one cares about him, and here we are. We said that, and we spent most of the time talking about Jon Jones Cormier. His fight against Henry Cejudo that's a hell of a fight too. Henry's a hell of a fighter as long as he makes weight. That should be a good one. All right, before we move on from UFC 197, do you have any other thoughts about that card, Matt?
Yes, got to rep my boy Rafael Sapo Natal fighting Robert Whittaker. I'm going to say Sapo wins by a late 3rd round submission comeback victory. He's probably going to take a lot more damage than he likes because Robert Whittaker is a very fierce striker. But I think he has developed his striking defense and his takedowns as well, so that they're enough pulling through and that he can get his jiu-jitsu going.
Let's move on. UFC 198. Absolutely stacked card. It's crazy. It's almost every single... Any meaningful like Brazilian on the roster is on this card. It's crazy. You got the main event. Werdum versus Stipe Miocic. Now, UFC fans out there, you know that Werdum was actually scheduled to fight Cain Velasquez. Cain Velasquez had to pull out due to injury. And this was supposed to happen, I believe, UFC 196. And that was scrapped altogether. That was the... that ended up being headlined by Johnny Hendricks, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson as the new headline, and that became a fight night card. Thompson put on an absolute show. Actually, Miocic actually stepped up. He actually stepped up to fill in for Cain, and then Werdum pulled out. Remember? So they'll finally fight. Love Miocic. He's really, really, really good, well-rounded heavyweight. You know, heavyweight is for whatever reason, there's not a lot of really, really skilled guys that are just that big. It's just not very deep. That heavyweight division isn't very deep. But at the top, you have some really, really awesome talent. Miocic is one of those guys. He's really good. Werdum, I mean, this guy, if he retired now, he's had a legendary career. His jiu-jitsu, top-notch. His striking has gotten better over the years, but more passable than anything you would consider elite. But as a mixed martial artist, he's been one of the best at heavyweight for a while. So that should be a really good fight. And then another interesting fight. You got Dad-Bod Vitor versus Jacare. This is a little weird. The entire card is Brazil against the world. And then we got a little Brazil on Brazil crime here. And what's really interesting is this fight, if you think about it, is kind of more like, the legendary Brazilian Vitor Belfort versus the up-and-coming Jacare Souza. I think they're the same age. It's just Vitor has been around forever. I mean,
wait, what's the over-under on the number of butt scoots for that fight?
Oh, man. Well, yeah, that should be a... Dad-Bod Vitor. It's not the same. Jacare is a scary dude. He recently lost to Yoel Romero, who's a beast. Like a guy that's built like the Hulk. You know, he's crazy looking. Jacare he's a scary dude in his own right. He's got knockout power. His striking technique has really refined. Each and every single time he gets into the cage, his striking gets a little bit better, but obviously his jiu-jitsu is where he's scariest. This is where he gets his nickname, the You guys can't see it because it's no video, but I'm doing the gator arms. That's where he gets that nickname. As he snaps off your limbs. Another interesting fight. Quick turnaround for Anderson the Spider Silva. Now, you know Anderson, he's been on our show a couple times.
Oh, yes.
We don't know if it's like real Anderson. He might be maybe a fake Anderson Silva has been on our show.
Very good.
My wife is like, you should, it's like when you put his name, it's like people can't see it when you air quote on the podcast. So when you write his name, just make sure you put it in quotations. But quotation mark Anderson Silva has been on our show. But we love that guy. Very exciting fighter, even now at his age and after his leg injury.
Yeah.
He's going to be fighting Uriah Hall.
Ooh,
Interesting fight.
really good.
Very interesting fight. And then you have, I'm blanking on the name, but you have Cris Cyborg's debut in the UFC at a catchweight 140 fight. I'm forgetting what's the name of the girl she's fighting?
Cyborg.
Justino. Gosh, get off me, ads.
Yeah, Christian Justino. Ooh! Oh, wait. That is her.
Oh, you saw a picture of her. Oh, man. What? Oh, boy. Okay. Who's she going against?
Oh, Leslie Smith. Out in 198. UFC 198.
That's right, Leslie Smith. Long time veteran, not necessarily spectacular. I'll say this. Didn't Leslie Smith just get, like, tore up by Jessica I? I mean, Cyborg she's violence, you know?
She's scary.
She's pure violence. Very scary. Oh, man.
The odds opened up at Christian Justino, negative 1374.
Oh, my. Oh, that is unreal. You know what? But that's not too far off. That's not too far off what it should be. That's a tough fight for Leslie. That's a collect your checks and get out. Get out. Hope you don't.
Plastic surgery is covered under the UFC insurance.
You know, you can tap out to strikes.
Yeah, tap to strikes.
Tap to strikes. Will we? I doubt it. Girls are tough, man. I'll say that. We've said that a bunch of times on this show. The girls are tough. Women fighters are ridiculously tough. And who I was talking to, you know, for the girls, when they go into the gym and they're training with guys, they almost feel like they have to prove themselves in the man's world, so they have to be extra tough. But man, it's ridiculous. Like, they just don't tap. You saw Holly Holm against Miocic Tate. She literally went out punching. Like, she was still, like, striking air because she was losing oxygen and didn't know what she was doing at the time, but she was still throwing strikes and trying to hit the hand and do stuff. Like, that was it. Live or die. She was not gonna tap.
And that was right near the end of a 5-round fight where Misha was getting, like, pounded on the entire time, basically. And that's Misha who, like, you know, had her arm turned into, like, 4 different pieces from an armbar and, like, didn't tap to it.
Oh yeah, didn't tap to Rousey. That's gonna be a fun card. Moving on, we got UFC 199. We got some great events coming up, man. Some great events. Luke Rockhold, Chris Weidman. I share the opinion. There's a lot of people out there that feel like Rockhold should have been taken on someone else. Weidman shouldn't have gotten the immediate rematch because it wasn't a close fight.
I agree. I just don't like the immediate rematch thing. I think it's going to be a lot different, especially if, you know, he really did have a broken foot. I could still, all things being equal, if he could still, you know, get put away again. But
I like immediate rematches when, it doesn't necessarily need to be like one of those controversial decisions, like, oh, the judges messed it up, like they need to fight it again. Like, when it's something like that, I could see it. I was talking with David, who usually does this show with me and breaks down these UFC events with me, and you know, that Lawler Condit fight was so close, and people really saw it both ways, and it's not like those guys didn't get an immediate rematch. Now, I don't think either of them have fights lined up, so it may be possible that they get a rematch. But like a fight that's close like that, I mean, it sort of makes sense to me. But I've never really liked immediate rematches, because as long as there's still great talent up at the top and there's other people competing, you got to give the other guys a chance. Like Tyrone Woodley, he's done nothing but win fights, and he's deserving of a title shot. You know, when Rory fights Stephen Thompson, whoever wins that fight, that winner is deserving of a title shot. You know, so it's tough. But a fight like that, it'd be hard for me to argue. If they gave Condit a rematch against Lawler, it'd be hard for me to argue that was a close fight. This wasn't a close fight. Weidman got stomped. It wasn't exactly a blowout. It was fairly close, actually, until Weidman tried to
Spinning.
Yeah. What are you doing, Weidman? Stick to what you know, man.
No,
Stick to what you know. And, oh man, but like after that, like it went downhill fast.
Like it just dropped off the cliff.
Yeah. And Rockhold just started like, I don't know. That's one of those like beatings that I just kind of feel like
It takes a long time to come back from something like that.
You need a confidence builder after that. You need to be reminded that, like, hey, you're Chris Weidman, All-American, 2-time or 3-time.
Full-time All-American, Hudson University.
Yeah. So it's like,
you know, maybe give him someone else first. And give Rockhold. Romero just beat Jacare Souza. You know, that was like, what, number 3 and 4 fought each other, and Romero won. I mean, if that's not the definition of like what it takes to get a title, then I don't know what is.
Better, like, it builds up a lot more of a feud. If you have a match and then you don't get an immediate rematch, and it's not for like another year or two, you also get to see people's skills develop if there's something like that. If there's like a skill disparity or a style difference, you can see people work on different aspects of their game, so it's not like the exact same fight. And then it also builds up like a little rivalry in the background, because there's like, you know, a lot of smack talking over that period. I think UFC just sets up a lot of immediate rematches, because it's like, these are the biggest bankable stars right now, and they're trying to make the most money. Because it's like, shit, if we put these two guys against somebody else and they both lose, like, they're no longer big draws.
No, I mean, it's hard to fault the UFC. Their model has always been the best fight the best, and that's not the model that, like, say, boxing uses. And they've been wildly successful because of it. It wasn't even the model that, like, say, Pride. It wasn't even the model that other MMA organizations use. So I respect them for that. As a fan, I've always loved what the UFC has done. The best fight the best. We're not going to build up fake champions. We're not going to feed our popular champions, like, you know, feeder opponents or whatever. It just, in this case, and I mean, you know, you could disagree with me on this one, but to me it's going to be a little bit like what Kane and JDS were, say, 4 years ago, where the two of them were clearly 1A and 1B. And there really wasn't anyone else in the heavyweight that really was up on their level. I think right now for middleweight, Rockhold is 1A and Weidman is 1B. And Rockhold is clearly better than Weidman right now, and he clearly beat him in that fight. I think it'd be better for him to fight Romero, give Weidman a fight against another top 5 guy or something, let him beat him, and really get his confidence back up, you know? And then, you're right, and then you have that build-up. Because these are the top 2 guys, but like, you have them go against each other now. If Weidman loses again, I mean, where is he? Where does that put him? You know, that's tough. And then it's kind of like that JDS Cain Velasquez thing, where like, oh, there's no other fight, so we're just gonna have to milk this one. Here we go, Cain JDS 3, even though JDS just got romped, and then the exact same thing happened. He got romped again. So I would just hate for that to happen. For Weidman to go back in there, get romped by Rockhold, and who knows? These fighters are taking a lot of damage, and it's not just like physically they're taking so much damage. A lot of brain trauma. Like, can he recover from that? And then, confidence-wise, mentally, can he recover from another beating? If Rockhold goes in there and beats him again, in a similar fashion, takes him down and like just beats him to a bloody pulp. Can he recover from that as a fighter? I know he's tough mentally. He's a tough guy, but I don't know. I think Robin Black kind of pointed out that it was really unusual, but after that fight, it almost kind of sounded like Weidman, you know, he talked about his injuries and stuff like that. That's not what you sound like when you think you could have won. You know, you don't immediately go to like the excuses and stuff. It's more like, all right, he was the better man tonight. I'm gonna go back and work on some things. I'm gonna get him next time. It's not like, you know, like kind of what Conor McGregor did after he lost Nate Diaz. It wasn't like, yeah, my camp sucked. You know, I was actually like dealing with like a nagging toe injury or, you know, whatever. It was like, no, Nate beat me tonight. I'll be back.
Yeah.
So, I mean, before we get to Diaz Conor, I do also want to point out another awesome fight on UFC 199 card. Dominic Cruz versus Uriah Faber. Three. They first fought in the WEC, and then and Faber beat him. Submitted him.
They fought in the UFC, and Cruz was able to
cruise to victory.
Oh, but
let's see here, and so this is the rubber match, if you will. Though I think realistically most fans kind of think Cruz has this one. I think this is one of those weird ones where, again, I wouldn't have had a problem with Dillashaw getting a rematch because that was a fairly close fight. But it seems like, you know, they kind of went in an opposite direction here. Instead of giving, you know, Cruz Dillashaw again, the same way they gave Rockhold Weidman again, they're giving him Faber, and they're letting Dillashaw kind of go, maybe fight someone else, and then kind of build up that fight in the future. So, just two different approaches, I think, to two champions. I like Cruz
for that because there's a history for Faber and Dillashaw, and then also between him and Cruz, they have like a really good trash talk. So it's like,
yeah.
if Faber somehow manages to beat him and win, then he'll have to face Dillashaw.
Oh, could you imagine that? Oh man, that would sell like crazy. Especially considering when they did Tough, and they brought Dillashaw on. Faber brought Dillashaw on, and Conor was like calling him out, like, you're a snake, and all this stuff. And oh, that would just be crazy. Oh, all right. And then to the big card. We should also note that there will be another. We have UFC 200. That's gonna be a major card. There's gonna be another super card down the line because another big headline story. MMA is legalized in New York. So they'll probably do a...
Damn, 50th state, they got it.
Yeah, they'll probably do like a big New York card at some point. But UFC 200 main event has been announced. It was the worst kept secret. Ariel Helwani lost his job over it. Diaz, McGregor, 2 at 170. What do you think?
Not sure how the fight's going to go, but I can guarantee Conor will not come out with a spinning kick and an overhand left like he does in all of his other fights. He's going to change it up. It's going to be a lot more tactical.
Yeah, it's a tough one to call. Diaz looks so good in that second round, but yeah, that first round, I mean, Conor was taking it to him. So, also announced, Frankie Edgar, Jose Aldo for the interim featherweight belt. And we were talking about this. Let's be real. This is just for the real belt, right? I mean, Conor is like gonna still get to hold on to his belt, but if he's legit fighting at 170 for UFC 200, that means he's gonna have a few more months to really get his body up there, like maybe even to the point where he's cutting down, you know, really build himself up, really get comfortable with the weight, because that's what you were saying, like when you put on the mass, it's just like the way you move is different, you know, your mass distribution is a little bit different, the way you kick, the way you punch, you have to get accustomed to it. He's gonna be accustomed to it. He's gonna, you know, it already looked like good weight. Like we were talking, it didn't look like he got to 170 by eating fried chicken. He looked like he was a muscular. I don't think he was on the scale at 168. I think he was a muscular 168. So I could only imagine for UFC 200, he'll probably be tipping the scale at 170. He might, like I said, he probably will be cutting down a little bit, and really be comfortable in that weight. Very unrealistic to me that he can do that to his body and then go back down to 145.
Yeah, not healthy.
Not healthy. Yeah, like there's a difference. Like he's building muscle. It's not like fat. Like if he was just putting on fat so that he can just compete at a higher weight class. If he was just putting on fat, you go run, burn off that fat. You can slim back down. You put on muscle. If that weight is muscle, you have to atrophy. That's a combination of starving yourself and not stimulating your muscle. Not conducive for a fighter, especially not one that's like still in his prime and constantly improving. You can't do much training if you have to like lose that much weight. And it depends, and like how much time, like realistically, what kind of turnaround are we talking about? Like if he wins at UFC 200, does he want to stay there? Does he want to take a shot at Lawler or something like that? Something crazy like that? Does he then want to go down to 150? 155 is realistic to me. He can bounce from 170 to 155, And I think 155 is probably his home. He was always a big 145er. That was a hard cut for him. I think at 155, he still has decent size. Speed starts to become an advantage for him. He's got a lot of skills. I think he can compete at 155, and that should be his home. 145, I don't see it. That's tough.
Not anymore. That's a lot of pool noodles you gotta dodge to cut that part.
A lot of pool noodles. Oh man, freaking idol portal.
Cool ponytail, bro.
Touch butt ponytail. Touch butt ponytail. How many ponytail twirls is he gonna do in preparation for his rematch? Who knows? Edgar Aldo, it's a good fight. That was a good fight. Their first fight was good. Edgar's been on a tear. He's done nothing but win since that Aldo fight. Like he deserved a title shot fight. I'm glad he's getting it, even if it is just for an interim belt. Whatever, he deserves it. And you know what's really cool? People don't really talk about it. He's not a very flashy guy. He's a winner. I think real hardcore MMA fans, they really appreciate Frankie Edgar. Just amazing wrestling, has some of the best boxing. Just a very, very solid, well-rounded fighter. He was the 155 champ. This is a chance for him to be a 145 champ. He gets to join the likes of Couture, Penn, as guys that have at least held belts in different weight classes. Really cool for him. And I would think, in my opinion, I favor him going in this match. He's coming off knocking out Chad Mendes. His confidence is at an all-time high. He's been doing really well. Aldo's coming off of an all-time low. He just got smashed in 13 seconds. So I like Edgar in that fight. I also think it's going to go a little bit longer than 13 seconds, though.
Yeah.
You got Gastelum versus Johnny Hendricks. That's a very interesting fight. It's to me, a must-win for both fighters. Gastelum's kind of like the new Johnny Hendricks in a way. Kind of short, stocky guy. Great wrestling base.
Oh damn! What if they both miss weight?
Oh man, because they both have a history of that. That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. They should do the diet together. They should do a diet together. Oh, that would be hilarious. Hendricks, his last fight, he got his weight down pretty good though. Your boy, Sage Northcutt, Super Sage. A lot of people gave him a lot of crap after he tapped out, but look, he's super young and insanely athletic, and he's training full-time at TriStar now. I suspect the next time we see Sage Northcutt in the octagon, it's going to be a much better fighter. So
yeah, I think so too. Because it'll be the first time that he's had a real break since he started in the UFC, because he was fighting like every month or two.
All right, guys. What are your thoughts? UFC's putting on a lot of cool fights. UFC 197, UFC 198, UFC 199, UFC 200. We talked about a lot of stuff. Agree? Disagree? Sound off in the comments below. If you like this podcast, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for future updates. We want to thank you, Damien Beatdown Brown, again for joining us. And we wish him luck. We heard that if you guys check out on Twitter, he and Chad Laprise are there's a little bit of a Twitter war. It seems very respectful and amicable, but they're definitely, they want to fight each other, and they want to do it on that Ottawa card. So let's get it done, UFC. Let's give the fans what they want. But we do appreciate Damien Brown taking time out of his schedule, being on our show. And Matt, thank you for taking the time.
All right, guys. Until next time, we are the Bro-est Bros.
You know.
That was off, man. Let's try it again.
No, because we're over Skype, so there's a delay.
There's a little bit of a delay. All right. Until next time, we are the Bro-est Bros. Screw it. Whatever. It's good enough.